Hello YouTube, welcome to another League of Legends guide by eGaming Television. As you can see, this time we're bringing you Miss Fortune from Season 6, patch 5.23. Now Miss Fortune did receive a few small nerfs in patch 5.23, one of them being her base health was reduced by 50, and her strat lost 20 attack speed at its highest level. I know some of you are wondering if Miss Fortune is still a good champion, and the answer to that is hell yes. She is still a god tier, or at least a tier 1 champion. She's still one of the best team fighters by far in an AoE team comp. So in this guide, we're going to be covering the pros and cons of the champion, her masteries, runes, what each of her abilities do, ability leveling order, her item build, and gameplay tips. I of course also have some footage I'm going to be showing you guys while I'm going through the guide, so let's get right into it. So we're going to start by jumping right into the pros and cons of Miss Fortune, starting with the pros. So the first thing that's good about Miss Fortune is that she has a high movement speed due to her strut. Strut grants up to 70 movement speed when she is not being attacked, so this cuts down on the time it takes to travel to lane, get to objectives, and get to team fights. Another good thing about Miss Fortune is that she has high AoE damage. She can now be really devastating in AoE team comps that have things like Amumu or Yasuo to hold them in place while she gets off her full ultimate. Miss Fortune also has a strong lane phase due to the poke potential from her Q and W. She can also roam fast and take down towers with her strut. Miss Fortune takes a typical 18 ferocity and 12 resolve mastery tree, taking stuff like armor penetration, lifesteal, and health regen to keep her in the lane as long as possible. Now we're going to cover the runes that Miss Fortune uses. You start by taking 9 greater marks of attack damage to increase your harass on the enemy as well as last hit easier, and 9 greater glyphs of magic resist and 9 greater seals of armor to increase your sustain so you take less damage in lane. You follow this up by taking 3 greater quintessences of attack speed to make last hitting easier as well as getting out more damage per second. There's not really any alternative runes you'll want to take. You don't need greater quints of lifesteal anymore because of the masteries you get, so this is pretty much the only runes you will use. Now we're going to spend a bit of time covering each of Miss Fortune's abilities, starting with her passive, which is called Love Tap. So what her passive does, it's whenever Miss Fortune basic attacks a new target, she deals 0.6 to 1 times her attack damage, bonus physical damage. Love Taps deals 50% damage to minions and turrets. So Love Tap is a very strong passive during lane phase. You can easily proc your passive between the enemy AD carry and support. It isn't as strong in teamfights, however. It helps you take down towers if you switch between it and a minion. This is a passive that is very strong early on and becomes not such a big deal the farther you get into the game. Next, we're going to cover Miss Fortune's Q, which is called Double Up. So Miss Fortune fires a bouncing shot through an enemy, dealing between 20 and 80 damage, plus 0.8 per attack damage, physical damage, to the first target, and between 40 and 160 plus 1 per attack damage, physical damage, to the second. Both apply on-hit effects. If the first shot kills its target, the second deals 50% increased damage. So this is your bread and butter ability. It can help you with last hitting, as well as harassing enemy champions. Try to use your Q to last hit a minion and bounce the shot to land high poke on an enemy behind it. Next, we look at Strut, which is her W. And note, it has both a passive and active. So the passive is after 5 seconds of not taking direct damage, Miss Fortune gains 25 movement speed. After another 5 seconds, this bonus increases to between 60 and 100. When you activate Strut, you gain the full movement speed as well as between 60 and 100 attack speed for 3 seconds. And note that in 5.23, the max rank went from 120 to 100, so she did receive a minor nerf on that. So Love Taps prolong the attack speed bonus duration by 1 second as well, and it is doubled by champions. So W is a great ability due to the increased movement speed you get from its passive, as well as the amazing attack speed steroid you get from when you activate the ability. So now we land on the last of Miss Fortune's main abilities, which is called Make It Rain, which is her E. So Miss Fortune reveals an area, raining down bullets that deal between 90 and 310 plus 80% ability power magic damage over 2 seconds, and slows enemies by between 40 and 60 based on the rank. So this is Miss Fortune's weakest ability. It has low damage, which is based off of AP as well, but the benefit is it does provide a slow. The slow is okay, however the mana cost of this ability is very high, and you should be saving your mana for your Q and ult. If you have the mana, try using your E before your ult to try to keep people inside longer. Note that the ability does reveal people, so you can use it in bushes instead of face checking and just dying. So now we land at Miss Fortune's ultimate, which is called Bullet Time, and this is what makes Miss Fortune such a good AD carry. So Miss Fortune channels a barrage of bullets into a cone in front of her every 0.25 seconds for a 3-second duration, dealing 0.75 per attack damage and plus 20 of ability power physical damage per wave. She fires 12, 14, or 16 waves in total, and each wave will deal physical damage to all enemies caught in the area. Each wave of bullet time can critically strike as well, dealing 120% damage. So as of 5.22, it is now one of the most amazing AoEs in the game. Before it did only ability power, but now with the AD it does a ton of damage. So try to combo it with other champions in order to get the full duration off to melt entire teams. You are very vulnerable when channeling your ult, however, so pick your spot carefully. So now that we've covered what each of her abilities does, we're going to talk about the ability leveling order. So you take Bullet Time, which is your ultimate, at whenever you can. So that means level 6, 11, and 16. Double Tap, which is your Q, is taken at level 1 and is your main leveling priority. So you take it at 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Strut is your second best skill and provides a lot of mobility, so you take this at 2 and is your second leveling priority. So you take it at 2, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Lastly, you have Make It Rain, which is your E. You take it at level 4 basically just for the slow and is the last in leveling priority since it's based off of ability power. So you take it at level 4, 14, 15, 17, and 18. Next, we're quickly going to cover what summoners Miss Fortune should take, and they're pretty much always Flash and Heal. You take Flash because it's used for chasing, escaping, repositioning, and much more. Flash is a must-have for Miss Fortune since she does not have a built-in escape like Valkyrie for Corki. Your next summoner you take is Heal. Heal gives you both health and movement speed when you activate it. It can be used for escaping and kiting as well as to heal your team or yourself to keep you alive. Because of the multiple uses you have for Heal, it is now much better than Cleanse or Barrier. Now that we got all the pre-game information out of the way, we're going to discuss what item builds you get on Miss Fortune. So almost always you start with a Dorn's Blade and a health pot. You move into a Essence Reaver, then a Static Shiv, Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, Last Whisper, and then Guardian Angel. Keep in mind, however, that there is alternatives to this build. For one, you can take Phantom Dancer instead of Static Shiv. Static Shiv is better if you need the wave clear, however it did get a little nerfed, so Phantom Dancer now might be the more viable option. If you're against something like a Zed, you may need to take the Mercurial Scimitar over the Guardian Angel to cancel his ultimate. Banshee's Veil is also a viable option if you know you'll get a lot out of it against their enemy team. The last thing I have on this guide are some gameplay tips. Now these also work for every other AD carry, not just Miss Fortune. So the first one I have is you need to learn how to last hit. Last hitting is a big part of playing an AD carry. By properly last hitting, your lane will not push the enemy tower, which gives them a chance to freeze the lane against you. Last hitting means getting the killing blow on a minion. No matter how much damage you do to a minion, you get the same amount of gold as long as you get the kill. Focus on only getting the last bit of damage on a minion. The next thing you need to learn is when to push your lane. If the enemy duo lane goes for an objective or gank, either follow them if your team wishes to fight, or push the lane and try to get the tower down if possible. If you're just sitting in the lane last hitting when the enemy duo is doing other things like objectives, this can really hinder your team since you're not getting anything out of it. Another thing you need to learn is how to do something which is called orb walking. Orb walking is a technique which combines attacking and moving to stay in pursuit of an enemy. Start an auto attack, and when you see it in the air, begin walking and cancel the animation. Doing this allows you to get off an auto attack, but still keep moving as much as possible to track down an enemy. Another important thing is to learn how to kite. Kiting means running away from an enemy while also quickly turning around to land auto attacks to keep up some DPS. Slows such as your E or red buff will help you slow enemy champions to make this much easier. Don't forget to use them. The last thing I want to talk about is how to play with your support. Now there's two different types of supports out there. There are aggressive ones and there are passive ones. When you're playing with something aggressive such as a Leona or Thresh, use your E and ultimate to combo with them to get off a ton of damage. Doing so, you can get very easy kills and easily snowball into the late game. Playing with a passive support has its benefits as well. They'll always be able to keep you safe and offer you protection if you get ganked from a jungler and all sorts of other things. If you're with something like a Jaina as well, her shield increases your attack damage so you can still get tons of poke. Just learn how to play with your supports and you'll be easily carried into the late game. Keep in mind that Miss Fortune exceeds at team fights. She cannot 1v1 AD carries with similar gear such as Vayne, so simply don't do it. Look for team fights when your team wants to group and collect your free elo. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video. Also, please feel free to leave any suggestions or comments and I will be sure to respond to those. If you guys have any champions you would like to see a guide on, please leave that there as well and I would be happy to do so. eGaming Television is a brand new channel at the time of this recording and we'll be doing many other League of Legends guides, at least one a day, so please look out for those. They will be around.